All right, good afternoon. It is 2:31 on Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, and this is the meeting of the Sandpoint Parks and Recreation Commission, now called to order. For the record, I am the Vice Chair, Gwen Victorson, presiding in the City Council chambers at City Hall, 1123 Westlake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. Commissioners, members present or absent. So all of our members are present with the exception of Cynthia and Jessica at this point, to the best of my knowledge. So we will now proceed with approval of the minutes from the commissioners' last meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the April 9th, 2025 regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to minutes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Did I have a second as well?
I'll second.
You'll second. Okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Still have Tyler.
Did you wave your hands, Tyler and Eric?
Yeah, they picked their hands. Okay.
All right, a motion has been made to approve, and any nays? All right, then we will pass and move on to new business. And so exciting times. We have some new commissioners that we would like to introduce. And I was thinking, in addition to introducing the new folks, it might be nice to also introduce the folks who are on the commission so that the new folks know who the existing folks are as well. And so, but we will try to keep it briefer than maybe like a couple minutes each, something like that. So I can go first, and my name is Gwen Victorson, and I'm the vice chair. And in my day job, I work for the Idaho Department of Lands, and I've been on the Parks and Rec Commission for a long time. I want to say back in 2011, maybe, or something like that. And so I've just kind of always held this as special space. I have a couple degrees in recreation, and I'd like to see the best for this department and the city of Sandpoint. And maybe we'll discuss.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, yep.
I'm one of the newbies, Dan Taddick. Been in Sandpoint a little over around 8 years now. Relocated from Alaska. Wife and 2 kids. My wife teaches at Washington. Kid in middle school, one at Washington. Both kids are both very active: soccer, baseball, basketball. Wife and I stay very active with that as well. President of the Sasquatch Baseball Organization. Coach son's 13U team. Served on Little League board, coached Little League. My wife's been on the Little League board, treasurer, coach. Serves on AAU basketball, teachers board. Yeah, so we stay very active with all that. I also happen to have been the city engineer a few years ago and on War Memorial Field, so had experience with the design and construction of turf and all that there. Through the private side, so I started working at HMH to work on the design and construction Field of Dreams as well. So fair bit of artificial turf and facility design, and drainage and parking and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, happy to help out here where I can. Knowledge, expertise, time.
Cool. I'm Jason Welker. I'm the head for Parks Rec Planning Building. Mostly. I've also been here 8 years this month, actually. Although I've been here since 2004. Well, I was in David's wife's class this year. Absolutely love Miss Taddick. She's a soccer player. She's she's doing beach volleyball right now down at City Beach. She's an alpine ski racer up at Schweitzer, and she's done pretty much every sport you can imagine in Sandpoint as well. But she's kind of fallen into her groove as a teenager now, doing ski racing, and she's really into soccer as well. So yeah, I was on city council for 2.5 years. I was on planning and zoning for 2.5 years before that. So I've been volunteering and working in some capacity at the city for about 2019 now. And when we get to Heidi, I was Heidi's next door neighbor in Switzerland for 1.5 years, which is a little piece of trivia. That's interesting. That's not why she got this position. Totally unrelated. Super coincidental.
Yeah.
So
My name is Lori Seamers. My mom was born here 102 years ago. I was born here. My daughter was born here. So we have a long history of Sandpoint. My day job is an encoder. I'm an IT. My undergrad is IT management and I have an MBA and I'm working on a master's in accounting. Oh, I have a view of the skate park at Traverse.
I'm Heidi Bohal, and I currently am the executive director at the YMCA on Pine Street. I have a long history in recreation. I got a degree in rec, worked for City of Issaquah over in the Seattle area. I've been involved in community recreation, outdoor recreation, pretty much my entire career. And was also Jason's neighbor in Switzerland at the Zurich International Schools where we worked. So I randomly got some interesting jobs there when I was there, helped with some outdoor education and arts. But I'm really excited to be part of this group and see how we can impact our community.
I think we're gonna skip me because I'm the next line and I'm not an official commissioner, so.
You're your own whole line.
Sure. So I'm Taylor Long. Been a Sandpoint resident going about 13 years now. I have a degree in recreation management and background in a lot of outdoor recreation stuff that I don't use anymore in my day job with the state. I work for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. And I love to ski. I'm the vice commodore of the sailing club. That's like the vice president. Wife is the commodore. And yeah, happy to meet you guys and welcome to the commission.
And you joined the commission in,
I have been on it just since Jeremy restarted it.
okay,
So
6
that
months.
6 months or
Yeah,
so?
okay. Mhm.
Wanted to start at the top with Tyler.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
All right, Tyler, it's all you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler. Sorry I can't be with you today. I'm at a family reunion in lovely Arizona. I've been in Sandpoint for about 8 years, and I do real estate for work. And when I'm not doing that, my hobbies are being an active Rotarian and soccer coaching, which keeps me busy. So that's me. Thanks for having me, and been on the commission since just what Taylor said, new guy here, and welcome everybody who's new.
Thank you for your dedication and joining us from your family vacation.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
All right, Eric.
I'm Eric Eugene Donenfeld, owner of Northwest Auto Body in Sandpoint here, Bonners Ferry and Ponderay. I'm a soccer coach as well and born and raised here in Sandpoint.
Awesome. And Josh.
And Eric, you came on the
Sorry.
commission with the new administration as well, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure if you're, I'm not totally. Whenever Josh talked me into it.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, Josh.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? I haven't done this through Zoom. Okay. This is my
Hear you.
first go around. Okay, good. So Josh DeLucci, I've been in Sandpoint since 1991. I have 2 kids that are in, let's see, now they're in 8th and 5th grade. I've been teaching 7th grade and 8th grade basketball. I've been coaching with SAFL. And just involved in a lot of recreational opportunities throughout Sandpoint. I'm also board member of the Great Northern Disc Golf Club, so that's been around since 2012. So I'm really active in the Baldfoot Disc Golf Course. Also really interested in the Windbag Marina and, you know, decisions made with that area and City Beach. Those are kind of important to me. And as well as the James E. Russell building and what we do with that moving forward. Those are kind of my points of interest right now. I've been with the commission since Jeremy started it up. So I think it's officially about a year, but really we've only been meeting less than that. But yeah, that's about it for now, and that's my spiel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it looks like we're still missing Cynthia and Jessica. And was there an update on either of those members?
Haven't heard from them.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so then we will move on to introduction of the recreation facility supervisor. And you're up.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Wells, know some of you, and I'm now putting faces with names from the past a little bit, which is great, but this is day 8 for me in my new role as the recreation facilities supervisor. I have spent all 8 days out at JER, to your point, Josh, as we work to get that place hopping soon. But a little bit about me before we go into that. I moved up from Coeur d'Alene 30 years ago. My parents are still in Coeur d'Alene. Both my kids went all the way through Bonner County schools, graduated from Sandpoint High School, went on to leave the area to go to college, as a lot of our kids do, unfortunately. But I have been participating in recreation here in Sandpoint for that entire 30 years, from softball to hockey to any of the lake activities. We are big mountain bikers. Kids grew up skiing Schweitzer when they were 3 years old, and love to still come back and do that. So my passion is definitely recreation and everything we have to offer, and I'm looking forward to firing up a lot of old stuff that we haven't done and new stuff that we can do. I've been talking partnerships with Heidi, my neighbor across the street, for the why and what different things we can do. But I'm a big collaborator. As Eric knows, I've worked with Rotary for a very long time. We even went back to working with the original Field of Dreams, NIPSA, before the city took over the Field of Dreams and developed it into what it was now. I guess I'm still sitting on the Citizens Advisory Board for the POB Trail / tunnel that someday might go under from the Harbison Field to the lake there in Pend Oreille. So I'm a part of that advisory board. But always been active in the different things that are happening here, and I appreciate all the different things I'm hearing already, from football to basketball to that. And I know the partnership that I will have with this group will be key in some of the things we're doing. Right now, on my 8th day, as an update for you all as to what's happening with Parks and Recs, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't even realize that JER is still under construction. We're doing punch lists. We're trying to, put the finishing touches on, just some of the different things out there. As you guys know, landscaping just kind of finished up. We just had a meeting with Rotary to work on a structure out there. So there's just a lot of things still moving. And if you remember, we did a ribbon cutting. I think, Jason kind of kicked the whole thing off, but that was ribbon cutting. And that was kind of the start of our soft opening. And we are looking forward to, getting a few things up and running, making sure we're functioning well, and then having a very large grand opening, which is what any business does when they're fully functional and ready to go. We will bring in, lots of people. It will be the bells and whistles and pony show that you expect a grand opening to be of a building like that. And we will have, programs and memberships and things in place that make sense to people. And I think that will kind of usher in a new era for what we see out there. Because we haven't really gotten to that point yet. And I don't think the communication has been there, that we're still getting there. And we don't have a date for that grand opening at this point, but it will be late summer, as we can get a few things in place. Last thing you want to do is grand open when you don't have everything ready to go. And we're very close, but on my day 8th, I can tell you we're not there yet. But that's where we're headed. As soon as we get that going, then I definitely want to branch out into all the other different things we've got going. But at this point, that seems to be a hot button to, get the programs and the facility, fully functioning out there as we move forward. I'm happy to take any questions if that's appropriate, but that's me and that's where I am on day 8 as a new city employee. So
Welcome.
thank you.
Little background, we interviewed about 6 candidates for this position. We had 15 applications. So Ryan really rose to the top in his management and supervisory experience, the fact that he's a community member that a lot of people already know. He's a Rotarian, he's Elks, a lot of connections, a lot of passion. He's also a user. He's a pickleball player himself, has had kids go through high school sports at Sandpoint. So he kind of represents a lot of different user groups in the community. So really thankfully took the job. Been super excited just to have someone over there to, fill that empty seat. I mean, we really needed someone with this kind of vision and ambition and experience of not just managing municipal recreation facilities, but like the business side as well. He's been responsible for, business operations at large local businesses over the years. So that's important. In the next agenda, I want to talk a little bit about what the presentation went a couple weeks ago, but we'll wrap it up if anybody has questions for Ryan.
I was curious if you're fully staffed now.
We're close. I just posted 2 positions, so if anybody needs something for their kid to do, I would like to get people who have a tennis or pickleball background so we can start launching some quick programs in there that start fitting that need. But there are 2 positions available. Those are on there. Staffing is still a discussion, what our hours are going to do. I've had my first official meeting with Jason last week, and then we'll have one in the morning, but we'll probably launch some type of a volunteer staffing program like they do at the gun range so that we can extend our hours back out. As you guys know, that there's not a lot of appetite for spending much more money over there, but if we can do something to have volunteers come in and extend our hours and just make the value proposition to a membership and, getting out there more on the weekends and especially during the winter when, people are probably going to want to come recreate before work and that type of thing when they can't go out and go walking when it's cold and snowy here. So hours and staffing is all part of my first 8 days and we're ticking those boxes.
So the positions that are open are part-time positions for, you have to be 16 or 18?
16, and they're part-time counter positions, basically to work there and check people in, make sure things are functioning, that type of thing. So
Like 20 hours a week?
correct.
And it's like 12 to 16 an hour,
Maximum 20 hours a week.
Yeah, maximum
$14 an hour. Yeah.
$14 an hour.
You have to be 16 years old.
And we have a youth tennis instructor position open, so we're looking for someone.
And those can be found on the Sandpoint website.
Anybody knows anybody or has any college kids home? Sounds like they could use help. And
I
then
did.
the hours are currently,
So we're 8 to 8 on a couple days and then 10 to 8 on a couple days. And then the weekends are a little bit closing a little bit earlier than we'd like to do. That's because of a staffing piece but we're trying to get to a consistent open at 8 through summer. We're with the heat, we saw a lot more people in there in the last couple of days because it's pretty uncomfortable to be out in the heat trying to run around. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over summer and the heat pushes actually people there. It's very comfortable in there all day long. So it's a good place to be.
and for community play or the option that it was like free for the community, that is every day?
So I added that back in for Wednesday of next week. So when you pull up our schedule, so it's Wednesday night, Friday night, and then on the weekends. But that's another piece we're looking at that seems to be a very popular piece, like it's packing the courts and that type of thing as it should. So working that out so we can get everybody in there and on the courts and doing different things like that is just something I need to wrap my head around a little bit because I don't want everybody staying there watching people play, but certainly we're opening up more hours to that. Like I said, I just added a new slot for the next calendar and that's been posted. It's on our Facebook page anyway. I don't know that we put it on. I just finished that up this morning. So I don't know that's on the city's page yet, but you can find it under the JR Facebook page.
When you have those open hours, do you have someone that might help be able to instruct like new players who've never played before.
At this point, no, but that's that whole volunteer program we're talking about. If I could have somebody in there and we would have certain slots that would be, you know, intro to this, or a lot of people want to know what level they are for tennis, you know, and who can I get to? And so we could get a coach in there who could, you know, hit some balls with people and get them kind of pointed to the right group, and those different level up, all those kind of social kind of things is where we're headed quickly. We just need staff in there because the counter staff can't really go out and do that. And then you have people coming to the counter and kind of got a little bottleneck in there. So that's what we're working on, and establishing some different people who can come in and run some of those programs to kick off leagues and that type of thing.
And then is it still that any community member can walk in the facility for up to
Totally
2
free.
hours?
Not totally,
No limit.
how many hours you want.
Okay.
You can walk for 25 miles in there
Okay.
if you want. But yeah, no, it's completely open. Had somebody in there this afternoon, just kind of, this is great, you know, it's cool.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go all the way up Pine Street or something, maybe where it's a little more shady than in downtown, so definitely a great place to get out of the sun, and I'm sure during the winter, we will have that as a major component of that facility, just getting people in there to get some walking.
Are there any other questions from any commissioners? And I'd also invite you to think about other questions you might have, and you could just jot them down. And if we have more time at the end, we could talk more about your exciting role, and welcome to the team. And thank you again for saying yes to Sandpoint and the JER. And so number 4, I'd like to propose to move, if possible. I would like to see if there's somebody who might want to make a motion to move up number 6, the chair election, to the next item on the agenda, because it is pressing, in my opinion, for our group to elect a chair here today. And so I would entertain a motion to move the chair elections to next on the agenda. If there's anybody who would be willing.
I'll make a motion to move the chair elections to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, team. And so we've had a lot of discussions about this, and we've had, all in favor?
Aye.
Just for the record. you
Any-
gotta do
yeah.
it.
Any opposition? Nope. Okay, well then the motion passes. Thank you. And so we've had a lot of discussion about this, and then we felt like we would put it on hold with new people coming on and people falling off. But our chair position is open, and perhaps Cami or I could speak to like questions if anybody has them about what the commitment is. But in general, from what I've seen, I've been in the vice role for this, since this got re-elected or going, and then previous to this for many, many years. I personally haven't been able to commit to the chair because of my work travel and my commitment with, I have a 7 and a 9-year-old, and am often out in the field during this time, so it's been hard to commit. But it is very important, and last meeting, I think we had some discussion, and I just wanted to know if there's been any more discussion or anybody who has felt compelled to maybe.
So for me, it seems a little anxiety inducing to just commit to it for like the long term. Have we thought about doing some type of a cyclical, do it for 4 months or something like that?
That's totally fine. You can be the chair and just change it every chair 4 meetings and then elect a new chair, or maybe everybody just rotates into it. If everybody's willing to, for 3 or 4 months in a row, once a month, you're basically exchanging a few email exchanges with me and Cami right now to set the agenda. That's kind of what's entailed.
And then ideally be present at the meeting and,
Ideally,
and yeah, and run the meeting. And I know that Chris, our former chair, he was trying to meet with Katie at the time to kind of go over the agenda as well. I don't know if you intend to still work on the agenda, but
I think
they
so.
had tried to, have a meeting like 2 weeks out to try and get ducks in a line. So like emails like this from Josh, like that have content that people want to discuss might get on the agenda and, obviously, anything else that comes up, like over the past month, I've seen a couple emails come in from community members and so it's not a huge commitment, but I think the biggest part is, being able to be present and to effectively run a meeting and work with Cami and Jason. I don't know if it'd be how that would, like, have you seen other commissions where it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that might be more fair. I to go in and out, or is there anybody on the Zoom who's interested in being the chair?
Or nominating
Long-
somebody
or
else to be the
nominating.
chair. What you do in this situation, guys, you nominate somebody else and they feel very turning down that nomination because they're so honored to be nominated by their peers who respect them.
Yeah, this is where I could say nominations are now in order for the office of commission chair. And if there are any nominations.
I nominate Taylor.
Thank you.
And Taylor, 4 months from now, 3 months from now, you could just tell the commission like, hey, I plan to step down at the next meeting and
Sure.
expect you to nominate a new chair.
Yeah,
That's your
I
right.
think I'm on this commission for at least the next 2.5 years, so that's where I was a little concerned. It just, I don't know what it's gonna look like in 2 years, so. But I would be happy to do it for next 4 months minimum, 6 months, something like that.
That is so lovely. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
What kind of hour commitment would you say it is, a week or month or? Do you have an estimate?
So I think a lot of this volunteer work is how much you want to put into it and then also how much time you have available. But I think it could be as light as an hour.
A month
But it
or a
also, a
week?
month, but it also,
Not including the meeting time, but
Yeah,
like
not
leading up to the
including
meeting,
that.
it shouldn't be more than a few emails back.
for someone like newer, it might take you some time to get up to speed on, like, we have a box where we have all of our like master plan and we have, some documents you might want to read and like any of the new commissioners might want to reference those materials and, get yourself more familiar with the city's plan and, Sand Creek, there's a plan and some of those documents on the city website, but that could be for anyone. And so, are you interested as well, or?
Not at this
Okay.
time, maybe when he's done, after, think another one. Right now, actually, I'm busy with my dad's probate, so.
And Gwen, I'd be happy to help once I feel like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So like right now, it's just a little new, but maybe.
We'll remember you in
6
like 4
months
months.
later. Yeah. And then once I get in the groove of how everything works.
Sounds like we got the next year covered.
Yeah. I'm just worried about the next one, because I will be gone in Michigan and I'm not as dedicated. I don't know that I'll zoom in from my family vacation, if I'll be available. And so I'm happy, to hear a nomination. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so are there any further nominations?
I think with the second, you have to have. On the table.
Right, I'm trying to go,
Point of order.
because then I would say that I would call for a majority vote if there's no other nominations. Right?
You need to close nominations and do that.
And so all those in favor of appointing Taylor Long as the chair for 4-ish months to be revisited down the road.
Term undefined.
Undefined, I like that. We'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? So Taylor, you are elected and I so appreciate that. And I would like you to accept the appointment.
Of course.
Perfect. And so Taylor is elected and It's amazing. We can move on to,
Jason, does there actually have to be like a first, like a motion and a second? With a majority
Well,
vote?
there was a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
there was a second, there's a
Are you
nomination
staying on
and a
as vice
vote.
chair?
Yes,
then?
yeah, I'll be your wing lady.
Thank you.
And I will wing it if you can't make it and, last minute, we'll just work together.
Sure.
Okay, so then we will move on to more exciting new business. We have the JER special meeting attendance survey results and the next step, staff update.
Yeah, so, did anybody in this room have a chance to attend or watch the special meeting 2 weeks ago at council? Yeah, no, Dan was there. Taylor, you were watching, you probably,
I was there.
oh, you were there, great,
I liked your presentation.
thank you.
Education.
So I won't go through the whole presentation again. It's available on YouTube. It was 2 weeks ago tonight. The purpose was to be very transparent. Financials at the sports center, the membership, retention, relatively low level of retention, what I understand to be some of the challenges with the facilities over the first 6 months. And clearly, we've had a change in management over the facility that is going to put us on a better track. But ultimately, I presented council with kind of 4 options for how to move forward with the next year in terms of operating the facility. And then there were about 100 members of the public in attendance at this meeting, and we concluded the meeting with a quick survey. And I had people email me the next day, call me, hey, I want to take the survey. I wasn't able to make it. I'm like, well, if you weren't there, you can't take the survey because the survey didn't provide a presentation. It was literally just people who were there. So if you had anybody ask, I was frustrated I couldn't do the survey the next day. It wasn't intended for people who weren't at the meeting. It was a meeting attendance survey. So these were the 4 options presented to council. Stay the course. That's, we've got a new supervisor on staff. We're going to give it another 6 months, see if we can increase membership retention, and make it. I want to define success here, by the way, because I think one successful outcome of this meeting for me was changing mayor's and council's perception of what success looks like at a municipal recreation facility. I think there was some, for wrong reasons, there was some expectation that the facility would be profitable in its first year. Not very few businesses are profitable in their first year, and municipal recreation facilities are almost never profitable nationwide. I did a whole section presentation on cost recovery, and an average cost recovery ratio for municipal rec facilities around 40 to 80%. We're at 54% at the sports center right now, having not really done that well in the first 6 months. So stay the course, multi-sport adaptation. There were some, there's concepts for either a single court for basketball and volleyball that could allow other sports to practice in there without having to use the rough, abrasive asphalt surface. There was also a proposal for a single court with a turf field on one of the tennis courts, and I included all the costs that would be associated with a multi-sport adaptation. We have had a couple meetings with the United States Tennis Association, Pacific Northwest, which operates municipal tennis facilities in Washington State. They seem interested in doing a third-party deal with the city of Sandpoint where they run the facility as a private programming in a public facility. It'd be like a public-private partnership. And then the mayor wanted me to include the 4th one. I don't know, not a single person supported the 4th one. It doesn't really make sense, which is just go down to like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and just have part-time staff there. We would actually lose more money and we'd have less community benefit if we went that route. So I want to share the survey results with you. That's the point of this agenda item. Here. So it was a very short survey, 3 questions.
How many people
We had
respond?
76, I think.
Respond?
So yeah,
Oh,
like
good job.
3/4 of the people there responded. First question, which user group or sporting user group do you represent? So you can see we had about 24 tennis players, 27, about half the people there were tennis or pickleball players. The other half represented like field sports, court sports, or maybe they were just community members who weren't really involved in any sport. And then second question, very simple, like there were 4 options presented tonight, which would you like council to consider? And it's pretty much 50-50. 37 people said either stay the course or go with a partnership with USTA. In other words, don't add multi-sport. And 36 people voted for going with the multi-sport adaptation.
That reflects the room.
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. But to me, this is really interesting because it reflects our community. like we had 100 people, that's a pretty good representation of our community who were there. And council's now gonna have to look at this and say, okay, well, there's not an easy answer here, and that's fine, it's never easy to do this. So council's next week, I think, we're gonna get some guidance from council on, based on the survey results, based on the financials, based on, you know, your own preferences, because in no small respect, they're the elected representatives who are, asked to make these choices. They're gonna be asked to, give us staff direction on whether we should, give it another 6 months as a tennis pickleball facility, or put basketball in there, put basketball and football in there, maybe put just football in there. When I say football, I mean turf, on any turf field. So there's all sorts of options that they'll have. So, and then I'll scroll through some of the narrative comments here. And even see them.
So at your presentation, you had financials through when? Because the last time this group
Oh,
has looked at
through
financials,
like May.
when we looked at, I think, just through like.
Yeah.
like April or something.
Yeah, it had. Yeah, and all those have been uploaded to the JER page on the website, so you can go down. Excel document. and
So
the
we've seen
presentation itself.
movement. Positive.
Well, we actually were like we broke even in the month of May, but the reason is we collected like 3 months worth of invoices from the school district for the use of the facility. So that the school district ended up paying almost $8,000 in court fees for their tennis season.
Mhm.
So we saw like $9,000 in revenue and about $9,000 in expenses through, but we haven't caught up with all of our May expenses yet. So we'll end up in the red. But it was looking pretty good for May.
But how about user numbers?
A membership, well, you have to go out, watch the presentation.
Sorry, I was on a fire assignment.
Yeah.
I was actually
know.
working in the field.
The presentation itself is about 45 minutes on YouTube. You put up 1.5 speed.
Thanks.
Some people were able to do the survey more than once, right?
Possibly.
And the person next to me was.
Oh,
Really?
I don't think so. I thought the software of that eliminated IP
I-
addresses to just one.
Well, I can set it up one way or the other.
Oh, okay.
So
Or
maybe.
they use different email.
That.
Yeah, you could use a
I did
different
two
email.
comments. I went back in and did a second comment. I didn't vote again, but.
Yeah.
The first couple comments on there were interesting, and I think your presentation actually touched on it about the intentions of the facility donor.
Yeah.
And there may be a misconception there. Because I read the quote about.
We're gonna hear from the horse's mouth next Wednesday because he just bought a plane ticket to come to my 18th or June 18th council meeting. So Jim Russell's gonna be here. I don't know what he's gonna say. I had a text exchange with him last night. He didn't really show his cards as far as what he wants to look the council members in the eyes. So to see him and his mother through his eyes. And
And that's.
I don't know
what
what he's gonna say.
What day is he coming?
Next week's council meeting.
The Wednesday night.
Because there's an agenda item in next week's council meeting. It's not an action item, but council's gonna give staff direction
Okay. Josh, did you have a question?
the 18th.
No, I have some comment whenever we're gonna comment on it, though.
Okay, perfect.
I'll wait. I can wait for Jason to finish.
I think I've seen it.
So we'll follow up with a link to these results.
I think they're on the JR page.
Published a PDF of the results, so you can go see all these comments on the JER page. Yeah. I'm practicing like radical transparency here, like everything is just gonna be public.
And
Otherwise,
helpful for new members and old members who are very busy to just shoot us something when you upload something really important before the meeting and like the financials.
this
the
was
third
uploaded
month.
today after the city meeting 2 weeks ago. So,
Yeah, I wasn't personally aware that we were looking at that website for information.
so that's the results of that presentation and the survey to the participants of that meeting.
Which the summary is, it's,
Summary is that the community is split.
yeah.
Yeah, the summary is like everything in this town, no one agrees on anything. And council's gonna have to make tough decisions, which they're always asked to do.
Okay.
So you're not gonna make everyone happy.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, Ryan, but I was able to help sit in on your interview and I'm just
Thank you.
curious,
Thanks for the feedback.
are you
I got
kind of
it.
more leaning towards stay the course or were you leaning more towards?
You're absolutely right,
multi-
there's 109 comments, 76.
Yeah,
or something.
mean,
I did two comments.
My personal, so now I'm in this weird zone where
Yeah.
I work for the city and I work for council and I
Yeah.
also have personal. I don't know of any business that comes in and opens the way we have and makes money as, this report says we might or may not. So I I'm very much in favor of stay the course. I am also very open to multi-sport.
Yeah.
But I'm navigating, what that building was designed for and why it was laid out and the way it was laid out the first time. And, are we gonna actually try this? See what happens with that design before we change the design. I'm open. I will work with whatever directives I'm given, as a city employee at this point, but I can certainly tell you that it's never been run the way it should. And if we did what we're doing right now 6 months ago, I think these slides would be vastly different. So that's what I can say.
Josh, probably you can ask your questions. Yeah, okay.
So are we looking for feedback right now on this from the commission members, Jason?
Feedback in terms of which option we should be exploring?
Yeah, just from what we've heard and things, or is that?
Is the next step part just we're going to
The
city
next
council
step is council next week. Jeremy and I talked about whether this is an action item. He maintains this is not an action item. We don't need like a resolution here where council formally adopts a resolution. There's situations in which staff can be just asked for direction from council, as Dan knows. So we're looking for council and the mayor, because the mayor, has a voice as well, to give staff direction on what they'd like us to do in the short term as far as this facility goes.
So besides today's meeting, what would be the best way for commission members to provide input? Would it be going to council directly, or should we comment here and then council will review it?
This gets a little tricky because I don't encourage any individual commission member to go get comments on this. It's really, as a parks commissioner, if didn't have an action item on today's agenda either for a formal recommendation from the Parks Commission. But Josh, I don't recommend going to council and commenting. That's happened recently. If members of the Forestry Commission have come and expressed very strong opinions at city council meetings, those people probably won't be reappointed to the Forestry Commission, because as a commissioner, you represent the commission. It's really hard to separate your voice as an individual citizen and as a member of an appointed commission. So I wouldn't recommend doing that.
I guess I'm a little confused because I know with our previous chair and some of the frustrations he had was like, and some of the frustrations I think Taylor voiced is like, what are we doing here? Like, what is our, so I know I'm not speaking on my own behalf, but when people find out that I'm on this commission and they talk to me and they say, hey, this is what I'd like to see, or this is my input. And so we kind of listen to the community and we gather that information. And then I think we're not really sure what should we do with it. Like,
In this,
we should wait for maybe a different meeting where we discuss or have an action item, or what are your thoughts on that?
because there's not going to be an action item from council either. So in this meeting, share your opinions. You're a commissioner, you're appointed, you're expected to share your thoughts and your feelings about parks related issues. And I will convey those to council and let them know how this discussion went. But I suspect if we had a vote here, it wouldn't be unanimous one way or the other either. So it's tough to, we don't need an action item for this to be a productive meeting where you're conveying your feelings and opinions. So
that makes sense. Thank you for breaking that down, because I just was a little gray on that aspect of what we're doing here, and so it's good to know, and I'm glad that you're going to convey things. I guess what I've been hearing a lot about the JER is that obviously a lot of the public's not super happy with the way it's going. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, and I have no doubt that with Ryan being there, I think he's going to be great at turning things around. I guess what I've heard is that even if things are going well and we're doing better with programming and marketing and pushing the pickleball and tennis stuff, is that facility too big of a facility for how many people we have in Sandpoint that are going to be playing pickleball or tennis? And so that's where I think a lot of people have been talking about, why can't we use this facility for other sports? And And as far as like what you touched on, Jason, earlier about it being profitable, it's, you know, if we compare it to Memorial Field also isn't profitable. It's my understanding that that one is also somewhat subsidized from the city. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yep, that
Okay,
was part of
so
the station thing.
so I think the difference with Memorial Field is that, you know, several groups use that. It's baseball, it's football, it's um rat sorry, lacrosse, you know, a lot of different sports, soccer use that facility. And so I'm just envisioning like if JER is used by more groups um, and is able to, you know, provide as much money as the pickle or tennis available, tennis option can provide. And even if that means just breaking even, I just think there will be more community. Um, it'll be it'll be more favorable for the community if more groups are able to use it. And so that's just kind of what I've been hearing, what I've seen on Facebook. A lot of people complaining because they think it's just pigeonholed into one user group. And I know that was the intention of the JER, but I also know from being at the ribbon cutting and talking to those people, I also know they were really excited to have a lot of kids be able to use this facility. And I think the more user groups, the more kids we get in there, as long as we're not discouraging or not able to provide for tennis and pickleball, I think they would be totally into that. That's just my own opinion of after talking to them, is that as long as we're getting kids and it's a full building of different user groups, that's kind of like the ultimate goal. And that's just kind of my thoughts on the whole thing.
Thank you, Josh, for opening the door to comments on this and for your feedback and comments. Is there anybody else who would like to share their
Yeah,
comments?
I would please. I totally echo this exact same thing as Josh. I think if you want to win the community over, then you open that up to other sports and you open it up to other things, and then there won't be this negative stigma that is only pigeonholed to one particular group. And about converting the certain courts over, I think you get an indoor outdoor basketball. That court's perfectly fine. Can we fill it up with people before we make a decision to we're gonna put turf down, we're gonna do some sort of thing? There's indoor soccer balls, there's indoor baseballs. All that stuff can be indoors. Even football, they can still do training indoors. Like I think open it up to other groups. I think see if we can fill it up. And if we're showing enough interest, then and only then we convert one court over because there's a cost to that and they're in pristine condition. So I think you want to win the community over, you open it up to everybody.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any other folks on the commission who would like to make comments?
Yes, I would. I
I
don't
would like to comment
understand.
too.
Okay, we'll start here with Lori.
So normally I think the park is a public good and I wouldn't expect to make money on a public good. I don't expect the police force to make money. I don't expect the fire department to make money. I don't expect any park to make money. I just don't understand the concept of we have to break even.
Yeah.
Is that something, I mean, is that
Well,
common? Do parks usually break
to
even?
me, the most important words I heard at that meeting 2 weeks ago were from the mayor's mouth when he said, I'd be getting it slightly wrong here, but he said, care as much about the subsidy, I just want to see the building being used.
Right, and to me,
And that's a turnaround from 6 months ago. So that's a win for me because I agree with you.
to me, it's a public good. I mean, we're either gonna have parks and green spaces and we're gonna support them, or we're not. That's the decision.
Yeah.
Not whether or not that particular one.
Just
is
having a
mine.
countdown.
Thank you, Lori. And okay,
I believe the moment the city accepted this gift, this project became the responsibility of the taxpayers of Sandpoint. I believe as the commission, our job is to represent the citizens and taxpayers of Sandpoint. In that spirit, I'd like to make a motion that the commission makes a recommendation to city council. Whether we agree or disagree, I'd like to make a motion that we attempt to give a recommendation as a group.
Do you think we should vote?
Well, we right now have on the agenda that this is a staff update. And we're discussing the staff update. And it sounds like we could make an informal,
Well, so we use, and this is what we're gonna be asking for from council. It's not a motion or resolution. It's just, it's called implied consent. So that's what we're doing through discussion. And Tyler, I think because it has to be noticed, and this is not that I welcome a motion, but following the rules of these public meetings, I don't think we can make a motion because it wasn't noticed on the agenda as an action item. So that's what the discussion is about, to convey your support for one option over another. And then that will be conveyed to council in my update to them next week.
and perhaps we try and get this to be an agenda item for next meeting, because what I'm seeing with these city meetings, that we're discussing things and we're kind of like 1 month behind, and we had May, we took off because of all the staffing transitions, and that would have been the month to get this on the agenda so we could. But perhaps we as a group determine how we get that voting or that recommendation onto an actual agenda item, so that if we wanted to do that next meeting, we could all come prepared to formalize our recommendation for a future meeting.
It could
It's
do,
not
there
gonna be the
might have
last.
been action, there might have been direction from council by that point. So I'm happy to hear more comments and get more input from each and every one of you that I can convey to council next week.
I guess
And I will do that.
to say.
Yeah.
Like when you brought up, for instance, when you said, hey, let's look at May, we got paid from the school district. I mean, I think giving any business at least a year to go through the entire year and say, hey, this is how, and I know, I understand what you're saying, it's not all about money, but unfortunately, money is a part of operating. I mean, I would be open to any of the options that were given. I guess I'm an advocate for saying, give a business a fighting chance. I mean, something else that I guess I'm not a huge tennis or pickleball player. I do enjoy the sports. However, sometimes I do feel that to give a sport a chance, like maybe it's not a huge sport in this area, but it could be. I mean, look at when I moved here, the work that Jason, you did with Pop, I mean, mountain biking and just the biking community has grown because there, you know, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis and effort towards making that more available for people, and it's really grown and it's become bigger. So I guess I don't have a opinion, like I said, on a specific option, but maybe giving the business a chance or the idea a chance to take off, give them at least a year to see what they can do.
This is very helpful. I mean, Eric, I thought this point was, I hope you guys don't mind that I'm kind of reflecting on what you're saying, but Eric's point that bringing more multi-sport in without necessarily investing $250,000 or more into a conversion, that seems like a good idea, a good concept, Eric. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. I mean, we could
Yeah.
do a lot, as the mayor likes to say, you can paint is cheap. We could do a lot by just painting a basketball court. Seeing if there's a demand.
And I would second that. I think that's a good idea. It's something I hadn't thought about. I think I would prefer, turf and a basketball court, but we could start small, and there's plenty of things that you could do on that current court when it comes to cross training and things like that. And it's not to say that I don't think tennis or pickleball could be huge, but I just think a lot of people look at it like, why we have such a great facility, why can't we also share in that facility? And as long as it's not pushing, like as long as we're not denying pickleballers and tennis players, which I don't think we would, because the turnout hasn't been amazing, even if we have to allocate certain times for different groups, just allowing that opportunity, like when it's winter time, like, hey, Saffle, you could go in there and train. Sasquatch, you could go in there and train. You could have a warm place to do your drills. I just think it'd be great.
The one thing that was in your presentation that discussed today was about the anonymous donor kicking in 50%. Is that still on the table? Find out next week, okay.
Yeah,
Oh. I think we know who the anonymous donor is.
And was that, bring me up to speed, that's to convert? Okay,
we'll
that's,
see.
okay,
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what the situation is there necessarily.
I didn't attend the meeting, so I'm not like
So, yeah, there was discussion of the
Yeah, there-
multi-sport adaptation being someone willing to
partially
kick in
funded.
50%.
Because you presented numbers of how much, like, we had seen kind of some calculations of how much that might.
Yeah. Depending on the, upwards of $330,000 or so to do like a turf court, a
Mhm.
basketball court, all the hoops, volleyball
Mhm.
nets, batting
To
cages.
go big, yeah.
A event surface so we could host craft fairs and
Yeah.
graduation and things like that. I mean, there's a long wish list of things we could add in there, or any combination thereof.
Okay, so Dan, did you want to make any other comments?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what was said. I think the multi-sport adaptation provides the most things to the most people. I think it allows that revenue side, I believe it would bring in more. Use standpoint, there's no question it would bring. Based on what we've seen, I don't doubt Brian's marketing ability and, drumming up interest in the facility, but from everything we've seen, and that's one metric I guess I haven't seen other than anecdotal. Jeremy brought up him and his daughter were in there, but they were the only ones in there for 2 hour block or something on a weekend evening or a weekday evening. Is that the norm? I walked by
Yes.
there today, I saw 4 vehicles in the parking lot. Evening, you know, those, especially those winter and spring months when you can't get out on the fields, you would have that thing packed, just like all the gyms are from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at night. Dozens of kids in every sport you can imagine. They're all looking for time right now. You get 4th and 5th graders struggling for court time, and they're going to churches for court time. They're going to the schools. The schools are restricting court time because they get new floor surfacing. They don't want people on it. It's getting tougher and tougher to find that time. All those sports are all competing. And there's more sports being added. Travel softball didn't exist here 3 years ago. Now it does. I mean, there's more and more of these activities, more and more kids. That multi-sport conversion offers the most things to the most people, while probably not diminishing any pickleball or tennis use. It doesn't sound like 4 courts are used that frequently. I don't know how often that is the case, but yeah, I feel like this could be a huge asset for the community rather than kind of a lot of people that I've talked to as well look at this as a casting a shadow on the baseball and softball fields, and they cut the trees down, they took away my park space. It's really looked at as a negative thing. Sure, that wasn't the all of the donors. Obviously, they wanted this. I'll let them speak for themselves, but from what I've seen, they wanted this to be a multi-sport facility. The mural on the wall in there isn't tennis and pickleball. The mural on the wall in there is all soccer and name a sport. It's all over the mural in there. I recognize they may not have had a role in all those pictures and how it was selected,
Well,
but
James Russell is a 3-sport athlete at Sandpoint High School.
Yeah.
Football, basketball, and baseball.
And I know he had a passion for tennis, and that's a big part of the facility. And I think the prior administration, there were opportunities lost to turn this into more things for more people. There could have been partnerships, other organizations, if people understood, hey, this much money, we can do this. That loft area, when you first come in, got cages up there. Wow, you'd have cages full-time, you wouldn't even impact the courts. But that opportunity was lost, and I can't fault the people that made the decisions, but without any outreach. You make it, I've managed dozens of projects. When you have to make decisions as things go based on where your money's at, goals of the facility are. Those moments of lacking outreach, that sunk that opportunity forever. As I understand it now, you're talking $dollars in structure just to make that load bearing up there. When at the time you're upsizing a beam, big deal. The incremental cost then is nothing. the cost now, it's like, yeah, nobody's gonna come up with that money now. Those are decisions that were made 2 years ago, before Maeve was involved in many cases, you know, and to not engage with the community. So now we are where we are, and people have animosity and resentment and negative feelings towards the building. It's gonna be tough to get those people in there unless you're getting them in there for what they're passionate about. It's not tennis and pickleball.
I know I'm not part of this commission, Dan, but I will piggyback on your point about that, is that, yeah, we could do a lot up there, you know, and is that maybe a better way to go? Because some of it is low bearing, some of it might, and I know that there's community groups that are interested in maybe going into that match or that type of thing, and is that a better path to get everybody in there and finish the building as it was intended to be finished? You know, and is that a discussion that's open to be had? You know, because I just, even when we had tennis in there, nobody could view, you know, everybody's crammed in that little lobby trying to watch a sport take place. And so my concern is, we get all these big things happening in there and people want to come watch. How do they do that? And to have that space might generate, you know, another pathway for these different events and things to come in there. But right now we're really limited into what we can do because of not having that available. But that's something that I always keep on the burner and have that conversation with Jason, and you know, if there's a way we can finish that, that is prime real estate for bigger events, bigger things to happen, and that's something that I'll always be looking forward to that pathway to get multi-user in there as well. So.
Okay, thank you both. I am gonna try and pay attention to time because we do wrap up right at 4 and we have 2 other items on the agenda. Taylor, did you get to make comments? I can't recall. Had any?
No, I don't have much to say on it at this point. I think, everything that's been said makes sense.
So
But I'm not ready to vote one way or the other
sure,
right now.
gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of the group leans towards opening it for multi-use. I have a couple comments, but I too, like, I can see both sides and I can see giving it a chance and I can see multi-use. And so I think it is a hard decision to make, but we had talked about, Chris and I, for several meetings. We tried to get some committees going on this, and I really strongly recommend that we have a committee that solely focuses on the JER, that is birthed or formed out of this commission, where we could spend more time dedicated to just that facility in particular and give it more of what it needs. I think a lot of us are really intelligent and skilled and could help a lot, but I don't know that this is the appropriate venue because of the 1.5 hour meetings and the inability to connect off, you know, in just small groups. It just makes it really hard to tackle that project. But I think it should be a priority for the city. I think the grand opening is really awesome to hear. I think that there is a perception problem with the facility, and I think the grand opening could really help with that. I do agree that the new staff offices in the lobby makes it challenging to have spectators and whatnot. So thinking about, you know, utilizing the space above seems to be really smart. And coming from having booked the LPOSD courts and sports for 3 years for all the outside user groups, I do agree that there is like a lot of demand. And the school district had priority, and they had that in some of their policy where it helped prioritize the use. And it was really helpful for me and Matt to fall back on when everybody was kind of like coming at us like, we could look back to the priority usage and follow that. And then we also, at the school district, utilized any district staff who had keys to the buildings could open the building after hours and close it. And as district employees, that was really helpful for us, because then if people wanted it when it wasn't during the set hours, it was like, find a staff to open it. But if you get to these volunteers, and if that could be one of the roles of just simply like be an opener closer, and like this group wants to come in and they want to use this from 6 to 9 PM. And if we can find somebody, great. If we can't, we can't. And then just kind of a final comment on like is the booking software and everything up to speed so that people can book a birthday party and it's all kind of worked out most of the glitches? Or are we still in a like IT challenge with some of that?
The community room is reservable online. It's still pending approval at this juncture. So some advance notice is important. And then, as far as the field use side of things, I really want to sit down with you and talk about how the school district did it and see if we can move ours more in a direction where the user groups are entering their own rooms. Because that's part of our pinch point is my bandwidth to be putting all of these things in.
Yeah, and how that flows. And the school district, I think, had a pretty decent process. It didn't eliminate like there's not enough space. But they actually had a process that was working pretty smoothly amongst the groups. From my perspective, I don't know from your all perspective, and you probably have something in place for Memorial Field that is working similar.
It's definitely a prioritization.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the city
and
does
it's
use
spelled
that
out.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, so. Okay, so we could probably talk about this forever.
Yeah, I got
Jason,
a lot of good feedback. I'm gonna, tomorrow I have to write up a staff report for my council agenda item next week. And I'll summarize this conversation.
you're not gonna tell them to just flip a coin.
No.
Thank you, okay.
I'm gonna be watching that. I appreciate knowing that the donor's family's gonna be there. I think that's gonna
Flying out for the East Coast.
Yeah, I'd like to know what their intent is,
I
especially
would too.
city versus county. I mean, all the dissent that I heard you talk about, county people. I know these people. I know where they
Yeah.
live. They're not in the city. They're not paying the taxes on
There's
this.
a fair number in the city as well.
Wow. But
They're in the circles I hang out.
yeah, I see the Facebook thing and it's always, oh, Scunters. It's everything.
Okay, so we will move on to, we have 20 minutes and we have 2 remaining items and then any other comments or whatnot. So in a 5-minute
Yeah.
staff update on City Beach Hotel and Marina discussion, the discussion part.
Yeah, this one will be quick. As of last week, the hotel, Averill Group submitted completely new renderings of their plan that changes the building's footprint, changes the amount of parking, changes the setbacks. And as of 12:51 today, I alerted them that they'll be required to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a new CUP, an amended CUP. So that is where that stands. I also recommended that while nothing's been submitted to me, I have heard of and seen some proposals for modifications to public amenities outside of the private property boundaries. So I suggested that their full submission includes, let's say, we recommend you include in your revised submittal any offsite accommodations, access, or improvements you're proposing at City Beach Park or in the Windbag Marina. That would not fall under the purview of the Planning Commission. They only deal with private land use through the CUP process, but we want to have a full picture for the community of what they're proposing for any, we've heard about requests to modify the docks at Windbag Marina to operate a private boat rental out of the 100 dock. I know they worked with the Sailing Association extensively trying to get their support for a proposed expansion of some of the docks at Windbag. So anything they're proposing outside of their private property needs to be included in their resubmitted plans. The Planning Commission doesn't have any jurisdiction outside of the private property boundaries, but any request outside of the private property that they own would have to go to City Council. And we just want that to all be included in the resubmittal. So that's what they've been told as of 12:51 today. We had our meeting with our planning team earlier today, and it's unanimously agreed upon among the planning team and the legal team that the scope of their proposed changes since their approval a year ago is not minimal. It's not dramatically different, but they are proposing some changes that we believe elevate this to a new hearing at the Planning Commission. So that's that. Any questions? Less than 5 minutes. Yeah.
Nice. So that would go to the planning commission and then if
For the conditional use permit, which deals with
with their,
the footprint of the building.
and then if they approve it, then it would move.
No, CUP is just approved by the Planning Commission. So they have final approval of a CUP, but anything outside the property boundaries of the building of the Aberyl's property would have to go to city council. That they, you know, they have, I think they are proposing like kind of filling the duck pond at the north end of City Beach there with some sand, like moving sand around. Those are things that, you know, city council would have to agree to.
And also the Department of Lands and the Army Corps of
Yeah, of
Engineers.
course,
that
yeah.
anything out
But we do that every year with a permit with IDL on the Corps. We move sand with a front loader
the city.
around. So
Mhm.
in fact, that's something city staff would probably do if the Corps approved the request, was just when we move sand next year, we'd move it a little bit further north and reclaim some of that beach where there used to be a dock, I guess, before the windbag expansion. That used to be the location of the Edgewater dock, where that kind of hole in the beach is where the ducks and the geese like to hang out. So I mean, I have no problem with reclaiming that, but there's also proposed changes to the 100 dock that I think they'd like to request, that would have to go to council.
Since we have maybe like, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just curious, do they have use of the 100 dock?
No, they
Okay.
currently use 5 slips, but it's non-commercial. You can't do commercial.
Okay.
The regular lease agreement that everybody agrees to at City Beach and Windbag Marina doesn't allow for commercial use. So they have 5 slips that their hotel guests have access to right now.
Okay, thank you.
So,
And that's an agreement that goes back years.
Yeah. Gotcha.
To I think Windbag was built.
so I've signed up on the City of Sandpoint's website. You can sign up for notifications for all of these meetings, and then they actually send you the meeting agenda to your email, if that's helpful. Any of you can do that, so you can get reminders and also kind of see what's coming at you. And then if you could just maybe quick update on the parking project down at City Beach and the grants that we've applied
Oh,
for.
that, okay, so, well, no, let's talk about the remaining park CIP project, Travis Park.
Well, that's not Traverse.
No, because that's the last, the parking project City Beach is a fiscal year 25-26 project, so we gotta do agenda item number 7 next.
Okay.
Which is a quick update.
Okay, on
So-
Traverse Park.
Yeah, so as Ryan mentioned, you know, really the construction project isn't over at Traverse Park yet. There's still yellow tape up, orange cones everywhere. The concrete guys were out there last week pouring pads for bike racks, for additional park benches. There's, see, what else do we have? The Gino's still on site. They did some expansion seams inside the building a couple weeks ago because there was a little slight movement. There's some cracks in the walls that came in. That's all under warranty still. We're meeting with the architects soon to talk about the front doors at the sports center, which are going to need to be replaced. They don't have the right kind of latch, so they blow open during the day. So there are all sorts of little things that we're still working on with the contractors. The big things at Travis Park that are still going to be done this year. We've got the picnic shelter, which Maeve and I went to the Rotary Club meeting last week. Tyler, thank you so much for facilitating all that. That led us to fantastic conversations with Rotarians who want to support a Rotary picnic shelter. And we don't have a final plan yet, but Maeve's at her sister's wedding right now. She gets back tomorrow. So that's going to be her main focus for the next month or so, is getting a final plan for a picnic shelter. The location of that picnic shelter is at the entrance to the playground where there's just a grassy area right now. We are under contract with Thompson Fence to come in and do baseball safety nets on fields 1 and 2. They're also, we're also ordering all new batting cages. We're not going to replace the old batting cages that were made out of chain link fence, but we're getting some proper netted batting cages that I think we're going to get to 70 feet. That's going to go in on the pad. We have to actually relocate some of the dirt next to that gravel pad. With the dirt, it's about a few truckloads of dirt. We're going to move over to the east side of the skate park. I surveyed the Waldorf kindergartners last week, and they unanimously agreed that as opposed to an asphalt paved pathway there, and the skaters agree as well. But I've got a great little video of the Waldorf kids all saying grassy field. So they're all walking kind of on the east side of the skate park there, and I was like, all right, got to do the community engagement. So I went out there and I said, I took my phone and said, all right, guys, what would you prefer here, an asphalt walking path or a grassy strip? And they all said grassy strip, and the teachers agreed, and they walked that every single day. I'm like, we'd rather see grass here. The skaters agree. They don't want that to be a walking path. The skateboards are going to fly out of the skate park and hit old ladies in the head. So the plan is we have to do some excavation. We have to repair some irrigation pipes there. We have to make sure there's sprinkler heads so that grass doesn't all die. But we're actually going to move a bunch of the dirt from in between the sports center and the ball field to make a larger pad for a batting cage. Move it over to the east side of the skate park. We're going to hydro seed all that and just we're going to actually close off that section of the fence where people are cutting through the church's property to get to the skate park right now. The chain link fence sometime in the past was cut and then like folded over and zip tied. So we're gonna cut those zip ties and fold the fence back and close off that unofficial access point. And yeah, that's all gonna be improved this year as well. We do still want to do a shade structure. I think we're gonna have the money in our parks budget to do a skate park shade structure so that the kids have a place to get out of the sun there. We're working with BCSA on the location of that. With that, we want to do a kiosk with some safety information around the skate park. So those are the big projects left this year. Picnic shelter, baseball, foul ball safety nets, which are gonna go up 20 feet, basically flag poles with netting to keep the foul balls from flying over, batting cages, landscaping around the skate park, closing off the fence and putting a shade structure into the skate park. That's gonna get us through our current fiscal year, which ends September 30th. Now, any questions about that before we move on to next year's agenda item, next year's Parks CIP? Because I have some breaking news hot off the press. Email came in after this meeting started.
Yeah, I was curious. Today's the day.
So today's the day. Do you have any questions about this year's parks projects remaining?
I have one comment about Traverse. The irrigation seems to be getting like stepped on and just trampled by the park goers. And I don't know if you guys have looked at or thought about that, but I think so by the splash pad, but like when you're watching baseball games and like you're kind of like really squished now as you know, people, audience. I saw kids just stepping on irrigation heads, just like thinking that they're water coming out, like part of the splash pad, like parents not watching it. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, the school district would paid so much money to repair that stuff constantly. And then too, like people are just like crushing all your vegetation there because I don't know if you're gonna have to put up fences, but it was bad. And like I was at a game and it was pouring down rain and all the sprinklers or all your irrigation came on as well. Like, and it started getting like watered while we were all out there. And I was like, this is interesting, like now you're spraying us in the rain and people are crunching on irrigation heads and like, it just seems kind of like it needs to have another look of the flow with all of that expensive and big investment in the landscaping side of it to keep it from being broken by unattended folks. And then not related to Traverse, but I also attended a baseball game right here on this baseball field and the amount of balls going over that was probably like 10 in the one game I went to.
Where did they go?
Playground.
Play all over. Like I almost got hit like 3 times right behind. And like, I mean, it was a lot. And I would think that that would warrant also the netting if you have a good contact and you and donors and whatnot. But it just seems like
And foul balls get from this ball field to the playground? Because there's like a whole building between the ball field there. They
Yeah.
go over the shooting range, over to the playground.
They go over.
they go, I mean, those balls are coming like, those are like, I was surprised.
You go to Memorial, the boat launch gets peppered.
It's just,
It's just nature of the beast.
if you're putting them nets, you're starting to look at it from a safety.
Every net we put up is like. It's crazy expensive.
I think the proximity there is driving.
The playground is at Traverse is packed right now, so that's a really high.
Yeah.
Immediately right there, it's a little bit of.
Yeah, my daughter played all of her games there this year
I have a
and
question for you. Is the skate park always packed? Cause I feel like every time I'm over there, it's packed.
Last
So I
night, there was
just wanna
nobody
say-
there oddly, but
I
every
think it
other
just
time
was
I'm by there.
The heat
Yeah.
yesterday just kind of pushed them all.
I just wanna say I'm really happy to see that shade structure going in there, cause I do see that skate park getting used every time I'm over there.
Yeah.
I have a view of that, my living room, that's
Yeah.
skate park.
Yeah.
It's always used,
Oh, yeah.
very entertaining.
Yeah.
It's always used, a lot of booming too, a lot of noise at night from people playing their bass.
They bring music out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Adam Hall from the Skate Park Association came to the last council meeting asking if the city would allow the lights to stay on until 11 or 11:30.
oh, my daughter used to play tennis on those tennis courts at night and the neighbors complained. so
Well, the
much.
tennis court lights shut off at 10. The skate park lights currently shut off at 10. I haven't followed up with the mayor. In fact, the Skate Park Association asked me to do that. I was like, no, you come ask council to do that. I'll ask council what they think, but I got to ask Jeremy what he thinks, but I think we'll get complaints if we leave those lights on after 10.
I
Yeah,
bet.
10,
Okay.
10 is the time for everyone.
Okay.
so
Any other-
update on then
Yeah.
when like our grants and then the parking project down there.
So.
And we have 10 minutes.
Yeah, so this morning was the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation Board meeting in Orofino. Kathleen Muir, the grant administrator for the state, for that. She would not reveal how our grant applications scored from the grant committee. So months ago in March, the grant committees met, reviewed all the applications from across the state for everything from the recreational trails program grants, which is what POP goes for to fund trail maintenance, the Idaho Mountain Bike License Plate grant, the motor sport users grants. They administer grants for like the motorbike fund and things like that. The RV fund, which is one of the two grants we applied for, $950,000 to improve the city RV park. And the Waterways Improvement Fund, which is the other grant we applied for, $600,000 to begin phase 1 of a 3-year improvement to the boat parking area and the boat launch and then the boat docks. So I was in my department head meeting all morning and I wasn't able to join the Zoom. So I joined the Zoom at like noon and they were well past the decision and you can't rewind live Zoom. So I was like, oh, I don't know until the minutes come out or whatever. So I just emailed our grant administrator and she wrote me back at 2:36. So beginning of this meeting, I got that email. So here's what happened. We did not pass the funding threshold for the WIF grant, the Waterways Improvement Fund grant, which means she wants to have a follow-up meeting to go over why it didn't score well enough to meet the funding threshold. So we weren't one of the projects recommended for funding for the parking lot grants, the parking lot resurfacing, which is a huge bummer because I would love nothing more than to see a freshly surfaced parking lot next summer. She wants to follow up, but she did say that the grant committee wants to partially fund that grant. She says there's around $105,000 that hasn't been allocated and she thinks we can get that. And I said, well, anything we can get. We could do some stormwater improvements, new lighting, some landscaping. We could do a lot with $100,000. We can't tear out the whole parking lot if we do it. That's going to be over $1 million. So I'm hopeful we get something for the parking lot. However, the RV grant was fully funded. So we got $1 million to redo our RV parking lot, which is a big deal. That's a big park project. So we will be moving forward with a complete redesign, rebuild of the RV park.
And I was down there this morning. It's like you already broke ground. What's going on?
No, that's a lift station. That's a sewer project.
Gotcha.
We have to get all the poop from the season Sandpoint up to the wastewater.
So not affecting if you wanted to rent an RV spot right now, you still could.
Yeah, the RV, well, so we've closed reservations for this week because the contractors are closing Bridge Street every night this week.
Yeah,
To do like stuff.
Okay. And
But
that's a short
RV
term.
parks will be booked out also, for sure.
Yeah.
We're charging the contractors for all the sites.
Oh, good.
that
Way
they're
to recover,
using.
at least. So in recap, the dock,
That's phase 2. So actually, while we were in this meeting, I wrote Kathy back and I said, so since phase 1 of our WIF application wasn't approved, should we assume that we won't get funding for the boat launch and
Yeah.
the dock replacements? And she was like, no, you should apply again. And I think that the concern was, and this isn't an unjustified concern, the parking lot serves a lot more than marina users. Parking lot serves all beachgoers. So I think the grant committee, and we always knew that was going to be a bit of a stretch to like use Waterway Improvement Fund grant dollars to resurface a park that probably 80% of the users aren't there to use the waterway. So I'm sure that's the feedback we're going to get.
80% of the park goers aren't there for the waterway,
For the boat launch,
for the.
this fund comes from boater fuel taxes.
Okay.
So I would guess at least 80% of City Beach, people parking at City Beach don't have boat trailers.
You gotta break out the portion that's for the parking for the boats and the drive aisle.
Yeah, probably. That's
So when can you reapply?
next January.
Next January, okay.
So
So we're back to having a full pot of money
no,
No.
because we've committed $50,000 match for the RV.
for the
park.
RV.
And if we get the 105,000 for the parking, should match to that. But we'll have, closer to 250,000 next year instead of just 150,000.
So be thinking about that.
Yeah, so what parts, and, focusing on City Beach, we might want to put some of that towards some other projects at City Beach, because that maybe is focused next year. So what are the other things we could do at City Beach next year? Basketball court, hoops and volleyball, some swing sets, things like that.
So we're down to 5 minutes. Something that I think would be important for new commission members is again, reviewing some of like our parks improvement plan documents and our parks master plan and the Sand Creek plan, and we had been using a electronic folder to store some of those. Is that still a thing that we want to continue using and sharing, or how do we get these folks some of the historical knowledge to dive into?
Yeah. Well, let's be honest, our Parks Master Plan, I think over the last year, this commission is like understand the Parks Master Plan pivoted towards a more realistic capital improvement plan over the next 10 years.
It's lofty, it hadn't been revised though, and it
Yeah.
is what is currently adopted. There's also
As a committee here, though, with Maeve's efforts on creating that more focused CIP plan for parks.
to me, it'd be great for these folks to get on board and for them to be directed to that information so that they could read it and review it as we start to talk about like where we're gonna put that money to use in the future. And then just, if you hadn't been aware, the meeting is set for the second Wednesday of the month at 2:30. So the next one will be like July 9th. And, there's always a Zoom option. Let's see, July 9th, I think is what I saw, July 9th at 2:30. And Cami does set up a Zoom option if you can't make it in person, and people can email agenda item wish list to the parks chair and Jason and Cami. All three.
Sorry.
I don't need to
If
be
they-
on it
you don't-
until he tells me. what's
Okay,
up.
if you want, if you're a commission member and you want something on the next agenda, then you email it to the chair and Jason, because they're the ones who form
Well,
the agenda.
technically, if you want something on the next agenda, you should mention it now. Because one commission person can't typically put something on the agenda. It can be the commission person and the chair, but it's best to propose agenda items at the meeting for
Versus by email.
Yeah.
It's best, okay.
Yeah, otherwise staff and the mayor and the council are gonna set the agenda. And that's something the mayor's really tried to clarify in the last few months, is that what these committees and commissions are for is for staff and for council to seek direction and input on things that they're being directed to work on. It's the council, the commissions themselves don't generally set the agenda. You're a sounding board for staff and for council as we work towards citywide.
So other than possibly adding an agenda item for making a formal recommendation on JER, do we want to do that or?
Yes.
Okay, is there anybody opposed to that? So I think that then that's one item we'd like to see on the agenda for the next meeting. Any other agenda item? And then, while you're thinking about that, is there a taker on getting these new folks access to those documents and some type of communication about where they can find them and dig into?
I would love to be sent a link. It's easier.
Yeah, we had a shared folder that I liked, appreciated too, but I don't know, it's like, yeah, it's like we can't,
Sure.
we can't talk amongst ourselves, like off, like the meetings, but you can at least access the resources.
You can talk to each other.
Yeah, just, we can't have four of us like get together and go to a coffee shop, so, but the documents I think are a good read if you're new to this, and care to see what the city has, you know, kind of committed to on paper. Wow.
Tyler's.
Hey, Gwen.
Okay, yes.
Hey, I just think it's important that we recognize and maybe put in the minutes, congrats to the staff for their grant award. And that I think that's really important, and they worked hard and we support that, and we encourage them to keep going.
Thank you. Yes, that's very great. And again, you know, a warm welcome to Ryan, and if there's anything we can do to help, and as soon as you have the grand opening date, let us know. And so with no further business before the commission, the meeting is now
I
adjourned.
wanted, if
Okay,
it's not
one
too
more.
late, I have one
Quick.
agenda item I mentioned back in, I think, April or March, that I wanted to just discuss really quickly. The Arts Commission said that they would like to paint some of the basketball courts, and they would provide all the funding for that. And that's just something they wanted to get permission to do, and I'd like to discuss that at the next meeting.
Get it on the agenda for the next meeting. And I do see that email here. It didn't make this agenda, but
That's okay.
with no further business then before the commission, this meeting is now adjourned at 4:00 PM.
Thank you.
Thank you.